Peace and blessings, Empowerment Tribe. Welcome to the WUCUSU Lounge, where we talk personal growth, progress, and personal transformation. I'm your host, Brother Agyei Tyehimba, educator, author, community organizer, empowerment coach, and author of WUCUSU, a self-empowerment handbook. So relax, tune in, and let's get ready to build together. School on YouTube is your gateway. With over 635,000 views and a growing community of more than 6,300 subscribers, we engage an audience that's passionate about Black empowerment, passionate about supporting Black businesses and organizations, and getting involved in social justice initiatives. Our viewers, we're talking about business professionals, activists, avid investors, voracious readers, sports fans, high school and college parents, movie buffs, and bargain hunters, the perfect target for your products and services. We offer affordable ad space, product placement, event promotion, link sharing, and sponsorship opportunities to fit your needs and budget. So let's build together. Email us at harlemlschool@gmail.com to get started. Your brand, our platform, powerful impact. Advertise with Harlem Liberation School on YouTube today. Peace and blessings to my family, to the WUCUSU family. Let me give you the proper greeting, WUCUSU, which means the acronym actually for wake up, clean up, and stand up. Family, it is always a blessing, first of all, for life, to be able to do what I feel I was put here to do, and to do it for the people whom I love, my particular tribe, my village. And of course, if there's anyone else who can benefit, they're welcome too, but it is very specifically for us. Family, a few quick housekeeping matters. I'm going to put a few things up so you know what we're talking about. Talk about overcoming our fears. We're going to give some tools and some strategies for exactly how to do that. Some actionable things, right? Also want to thank people for watching live or recorded. The live viewership has been relatively low, but I don't worry about that. Everything I started out small, and through consistency and hard work and vision, it grew over time. So this will do the same. Those of you watching live, please share, please comment, please like, and actually the same for those who watch this later recorded version. I want to thank you all in advance and ask you to please subscribe to the channel if you have not. And if you're watching live, to please ask questions, and if you watch recorded, to type in the comments any questions or comments that you may have. That's very important. More housekeeping. I want to let you all know that in addition to writing 6 paperback books or traditional books, I've also written 20 ebooks. And you can find them at that website that is scrolling on the bottom. I'm going to keep it there for a minute so people can go to it, check it out. Support your brother, support yourself, family. You feel me? All right. Having said that, I want to get it started. Today, family, we are talking about a most important topic. And that topic is overcoming our fears. Right? So let me start by asking you a question. If you could, what would you attempt to do in your life if you were not afraid, if you had absolutely no fear? What would you attempt to do? I want you to think about that. Chew on that for a minute. Most people never reach their full potential, not because they're not intelligent, not because they lack talent, but because they tend to let the whispers, the things in their ear that say, don't even try. It's not going to be successful. It's not going to take long. You don't know how to do this. Nobody's going to listen to what you say, that type of stuff. Most of us tend to listen to those negative whispers, right? Well, tonight we're diving into something deep and practical and actionable, something you can start doing tonight. And that is how to confront and ultimately conquer your fear. That invisible kind of barrier in between us and greatness, or in between us and fulfillment of our potential or our dreams and goals, right? I want to begin with a little bit of education on the subject. There was really a great man, a wise man who was ahead of his time, considered a giant in the world of I guess you would say self-empowerment, self-development. He was writing books when many of us weren't even born. His name is Napoleon Hill. We wrote several books, 16 lessons for success lessons, and a book that a lot of people have read in this field, Think and Grow Rich. And he outlined fear. He said it's the number one thing blocking people from becoming and I guess you could say maximizing their true selves. And he identified 6 key fears. And this is very important. I want you to see, as I go through them, which one of them kind of resonate with you. When you hear them, which one of them would you say, yeah, I kind of have that fear, right? And I don't want you to be shy. I want you to be honest, because that's the way that you address things, by being honest and identifying them. So he identified 6 fears: fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of bad health, fear of losing the love of someone, fear of old age, and lastly, the fear of death. Now, let's break that down a little bit, because these fears are not random, and they're not incidental. They actually reveal and expose the things that we value most, which explains why we fear certain things. So, poverty represents being vulnerable, being dependent on other people, possibly being unable to survive and thrive. Fear of criticism, well, that's about embarrassment, that's about ridicule, and that's about rejection, right? Bad health, well, of course, that's talking about pain, isolation, and even maybe death. Uh, Fear of losing the love of someone, well, we know that obviously ties into fears of being abandoned, um, and loneliness, right? And then old age, the fear of old age is tied to frailty, loss of control and independence, and mortality. And speaking of mortality, the last fear that Napoleon Hill outlined was the fear of death. Well, obviously that's the ultimate, because that's the unknown. Once we die, we are no longer here, right? So that's the end of control, agency, all of that, right? Now, so when you think about how those fears tie into these larger issues that are important to us, it's no wonder why fear dominates so much of our thinking and so much of our energy. These are primal issues, family, and unless we manage them, these fears will quietly run our lives from the background, which we don't want. I also I like to have encourage that we have nuanced thinking, that we don't have these strict and rigid definitions and understandings of things, because uh, life is nuanced, right? It's seldom black or white. There's usually, to use the name of my queen's upcoming show, there's usually some gray area in life, right? All right. I want to make a key distinction up front, because not everything that worries us is necessarily negative. There's a big difference between fear and concern, for example, right? So, concern, when it's tied to a plan of action, when it empowers us to have agency to do something about that which we're concerned, that can be powerful. Concern can help you prepare. Concern will push you to problem solve, right? Concern will push you to create a plan. So if I'm concerned, for instance, about getting old, and all that in my mind comes with getting old, what would I do? Well, I might start exercising. I might start putting money away for retirement. I might start building a community or network of friends whom I can trust, who I know love me and will be protective of me and I of them, so that when I get older, I have a community of people that I can relate to and can relate to me, right? If I'm concerned about being criticized, then maybe to make sure I don't embarrass myself or misrepresent facts or misstate something, that I'll study. I'll be better prepared uh, in a particular subject area I'm talking about. I'll work hard to practice and improve my craft. If I'm in a performative type of field, I'll rehearse. I'll make sure that my musicianship is tight, my singing is good, these type of things. Or I'll simply accept the fact that, hey, I can't please everybody and be good with that. But fear, that's concern. Now, fear freezes you. That's the difference. Fear paralyzes you, family. You either overreact when you're afraid or you freeze and do nothing. And both of those responses keep us something we do not want or like to be, stuck. So the first step is learning how to transmute, as Napoleon Hill would say, or in plainer language, convert fear into concern. How to make it work for you and not against you, right? So let's talk about a few strategies to overcome fear. First, let me make sure that I am not ignoring anybody who may have had comments. Okay, family, don't forget to let me know you're here. Tell me where you at. Appreciate you for coming through. All right. Remember, family, we are talking about overcoming fear. Now, my favorite part of any presentation is getting to helping people get understanding of something and then moving into action steps. So let's talk about strategies to overcome our fear. And there's several that I've identified. I believe I identified 8 of them. And these are methods that have actually worked for me personally. So this isn't just something I pull out of a book. I took time reflecting on myself and said, well, what are some of the things that got me through some of my fears? And it's funny, family, that even today I'm reluctant to say I'm afraid of something. I typically say I'm concerned about something. And maybe that's just my thing, my coping mechanism. But the first strategy for dealing with fear and overcoming it is to transmute that fear into a plan. Take that vague, overwhelming feeling of fear and turn it into something concrete that you can use. Ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of? Right? And then plan around that, right? Anticipating your fear, plan around the thing that you quote unquote are afraid of so that you don't have to be afraid of it, right? Now, I want to take a moment and reflect. When I was a young dad, I was about 25 years old when I found out my first child was coming into the world in about 9 months, right? So I was very excited. I was very elated. I wanted to be a dad, but I was 24, 25 years old, but maybe 2, 3 years out of college, out of undergrad. So it was a lot I didn't know. Of course, I could reflect on my parenting, my parents and things they did, but I was a little concerned that although I thought I was relatively intelligent, I had never been a dad before, so I was a little concerned, and you might say a tad bit of fear or anxiety about, am I going to be a good dad? Am I going to learn from my parents' mistakes? Am I going to build on the good things my parents did for me? Am I going to have the right instincts? All types of stuff. Am I going to make enough money to have a good life for them and all this stuff? I was really worried also about how this society with its isms, namely racism, sexism, and all types of other things, this body image issues. I was reading statistics about how black girls were more at risk for suicide because of body image issues, and this had me concerned, right? So I was also concerned, not only like would I be a good dad and would I give him the best I could or give her the best I could, but also the world that she was being born into. Like, how would I deal with that? How would I prepare them for all of the weird stuff, the injustice of the world? I was concerned and worried, and I might say, if I could be honest, I was a little fearful. It was the unknown for me. I'd been a child, a son, but I'd never been a parent. Well, I turned that into a concern, making sure that I figured out I can't change everything in the world, at least not overnight, and certainly not by myself. But what I could do is learn as much as I could about being a good dad, uh, about the issues that come up with black children, things like self-esteem, especially our young girls, things of self-image, self-love, making sure they were academic. She was academically prepared and things of that nature. So that concern pushed me to study. I got to my books, and I have to give our great Baba, now an ancestor, Dr. Amos Wilson, whew, much love and respect for one of our greatest psychologists ever. He wrote 2 books that I went through religiously and found great inspiration and wisdom and practical strategies that I used with my first daughter and my other daughters, I might add. One of those books was called The Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. Another one was Awakening the Genius of the Black Child. And then there was Jawanza Kunjufu wrote a book called Developing Positive Self-Images and Discipline in Black Children. Because I was concerned that I wouldn't be a parent that was just beating my kids up, yelling at them. I wanted to discipline them in a way that was loving, but firm but fair. Because I saw growing up, and I just looking at people, thinking about myself, that when we're really harsh with kids and punitive, overly punitive, that creates problems in the child. The child now has to get therapy, or they got to work that out somehow, right? I didn't want to do that. So that concern for my firstborn turned into empowerment through education. I informed myself, I educated myself, and I made a plan out of it. I also want to say, related to that, number 2 is to be informed, right? The first one is more convert your fear into a plan. This one is related. In the first example, the plan was to inform myself. But number 2 is now specifically inform yourself, right? Be informed. Why did I say that? Well, if you think of fear, Carl Jung, who is a great psychologist, he said, or maybe psychiatrist, he said that fear is that we're afraid not so much of the actual thing, but of our perception of something is what causes us all the fear, right? The Stoics, the people that are at the root of Stoic philosophy, say the same thing, that it's our perceptions that got us shook. In other words, fear in some respects is an illusion. It's your imagination on steroids, run wild, right? And fear thrives on ignorance, right? That's why they say fear of the unknown. You're afraid because you don't know. That's why so many kids and adults are afraid of the dark. They think there's a boogeyman under their bed, or something's going to jump out and bite them or grab them up. But when you get the facts, when you get knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of a thing, of a phenomenon, when you separate rumor and old wives' tales and anecdotes from reality, from actual facts, you begin to see things a lot more clearly, right? You begin to have exert mastery over the things around you because you understand the nature of them. And you realize that what once looked like this huge, insurmountable mountain might now just be a bump in the road. You figured out how to deal with it. So it's no longer a big deal. So be informed. Inform yourself about the things that you're afraid of. Oh, I want to get into this college. I'm afraid they're going to reject me. Okay, find out what is the acceptance rate. Find out what type of students they like. Look at some of the examples of the essays. If you can get your hands on it, essays that students wrote. Get in touch with some professors. See if you can get a school visit, right? A college tour, and talk to some people. Make some contacts in the college. Stay in touch. You never know. But get informed. Number 3, third strategy for dealing with your fear is maintain composure. When life gets intense, and it will get intense, we have the fight or flight reaction. And that's kind of programmed into our brains and our nervous system, right? But one of the best things you can do when you're feeling afraid or anxious is another way we say that, right? So we're not necessarily talking about the fear that comes with somebody's going to hurt me and take my money fear, but fear, I'm starting a new job. What if I suck? What if I'm incompetent? Some people have this imposter syndrome, like they didn't really deserve to be there. All these different things. What if the coworkers don't like me? That type of fear, that type of anxiety. So we get to the job, our heart is pounding. We're scared now. We don't want to go back. We make up reasons not to go. Right? A lot of times when you see that, that's coming from fear, anxiety type of fear. Take a few deep breaths. In through your nose, 4 seconds. Hold it 4 seconds. Out through your mouth 4 seconds. Do that a few times. Take some deep breaths. Breathing, believe it or not, gets that oxygen to the brain, and it has a way of, it signals to your nervous system, calm down. I got that from reading, and I also had a doctor tell me that. We tell people to do that, and it helps to at least temporarily lower their blood pressure. When you breathe in that way, it signals to your body, everything is cool, it's going to be all right. Right? So when you start feeling anxious and fearful, one of the first things I told people, you got anxiety attacks, do that a few times and just watch how your body relaxes and all that. Take a few deep breaths, assess the situation, ask yourself, is this worth fighting for, arguing over? Is there danger involved? Is my fear grounded in reality? Is this something that actually could happen, or is it just my imagination on steroids? Right? What's the smartest move for me to make right now? And I want to say also, when we say composure, maintaining composure does not mean denial. It's control. It allows you to think clearly while everybody else is panicking. You are at peace because you got your breathing, and therefore your thinking, and therefore your nervous system under control. Right? Fourth strategy is to practice. Oh, by the way, when I was in undergrad at Syracuse University, I became a professional public speaker on the advice of an elder black church lady who was in the audience of a church. I was asked by the pastor to speak for Black History Month. I gave a speech. I was walking down after the speech, and I walked past an elder, and she grabbed my hand and said, "Young man, that was such a great speech. I've never been so proud to be black in my life." I said, thank you, ma'am. And she said, "I'm just curious, how much did the pastor pay you?" And I said, "Oh, no, ma'am, I don't accept money. It's a church, or, I don't accept money." She said, "Shame on you." She said, you should be accepting money. God has given you the gift of speech." She goes in her pocketbook and pulls out a $50 bill. She gives me, and I'm like, whoa, I'm horrified, because, my mom, I was raised by parents that had old school values. So they was like, when you're in the bus and you sitting down and an elder gets on, you get up. If an elder offers you money, you don't accept that money, because they need the money. They're being nice, but they may need it more than you, so you don't accept that. So I was like, oh no. I saw my mother in my head, like, you better not accept that money. I said, "Ma'am, I can't do that. My mother would kill me if I did." She said, "You know what? If you don't accept it, I'll be greatly offended. Don't you worry. I'm all right. I can afford it. But you deserve to have this money." And she said, "And if you don't accept money for speeches right now, I'm going to tell you to rethink that, son. God gave you a gift, and I think you should do this for a living." She told me that. I was a junior in college. I moved on it, became a professional paid speaker, and it worked out. But every time when I first started, I would get a little nervous. And you know what I would do? And that would just kind of set me right. Sometimes I still do it. It just may not be as pronounced where you can see it, but I always get a few deep breaths. Number 4 way to deal with and overcome your fear: acceptance, family. This is powerful. Acceptance helps you see the things that are within your sphere of control, and the things that you have absolutely no control over. And it's amazing to me as a 57-year-old man, when I hear the things people are so scared of and worried about, and I say, listen, you can't control that. You can't control what he or she says it does. You can't control what the president's doing and all these different people. So worrying about that and having fear and anxiety, you're just gonna raise your blood pressure, get hypertension, get on medication, and be rushed to the emergency room for nothing. So one of the things that I always advise people to do as a coach is accept the things you can change and the things you cannot. And now some of the worst fears you have in your mind might actually happen. But I often ask people, think of your greatest fears you've ever had in your life. Write them down. And then we go through them one by one. How many of those things actually happen? And you know what? Almost never does a person tell me most of these fears actually came true. That almost never happens. Usually people say, now that I actually think about it, now that I think about it, most of these things didn't really happen, but I was so afraid they would happen. That's why I say fear is a very powerful, often illusion. It's not a reality. It's a script you have in your mind of what's going to happen. It didn't even happen yet. That's the crazy thing, and it robs people of their ability to do and to be, and that's why it's so powerful, right? I want you to think about, were there times you were afraid to do, say something, and you did it or said it anyway? Haven't you survived things that you were formerly afraid of? Were there times that you were afraid of something and you did it? I'm afraid to talk to that young lady. I think she's gonna diss me. She's gonna ridicule me, and you did it. And to your surprise, you said excuse me, and she turned around. She looked at you. She smiled. Y'all had a conversation, may have exchanged information, and went from there, right? Or you were looking at a job that you was like, that's my dream job. I'm gonna apply. I don't know. I'm not going to get it, and I'm going to be demoralized. And you applied for it, and you at least got an interview, or you went to the interview and you were nervous, right? About how you looked. Did I wear the right thing? Did I prepare for the right questions? And you aced that interview and you got that job. Did that ever happen to you? It's happened to me. So when you look back, you're going to say, man, I have actually been successful in areas where I thought I was going to fail. That should be enough to tell you, overcome your fears. Don't make the illusion bigger than it is, but accept what's within your control and what's not. When it's not in your control, don't even worry about it. The things that are in your control are the things that you should move on, right? You're still here, despite your fears. You figured some things out. You adapted, you adjusted at times when you needed to. And that, in and of itself, is proof of your resilience, right? Number 5 strategy is to reframe fear as a challenge, as a personal challenge. I like this one. I think because I'm a former athlete, I was a football player. I tried track, but I couldn't hang. So hats off to you track and field stars, man. But I was a football player, and any good football coach will tell you that you have to overcome your challenges, and that challenges are there to make you better, right? So instead of seeing things you're afraid of as these monsters, these boogeymen, try viewing your things you're afraid of as puzzles to figure out, or tests designed to sharpen your skill set or your knowledge base, as opportunities to prove who you are, right? When you solve them or conquer them. And one of my favorite basketball players, not just because of the way he played, but his mentality. Basketball legend Kobe Bryant said it beautifully in his book, The Mamba Mentality. He wrote, everything negative, pressure, challenges, is all an opportunity for me to rise. And this partially explains his superior play, his unbelievable stats, and his achievements and accolades. This is a guy who, when he got 30 points in the game, he was like, Dad, why didn't I get 40? Right? When he went to the foul line 8 times, he's like, I could have drawn more fouls. Right? When he shot 3 air balls, I think it was 3 or 4 air balls in a row in one of his first games. Remember, he came right from high school. Very embarrassing. That would have completely demoralized most of us. You shot 3 or 4 consecutive air balls in the NBA, your first NBA game, in front of millions of people. What's he do? He analyzed. My shots were perfectly dead on, but they were falling short. So what he realized was I was lacking the strength. So he went to the gym. He worked on his wind, his stamina. He worked on his legs and his strength, his stamina over the course of a game. And then he started hitting those shots, right? That's the mindset of a champion. This idea, you're not being punished, not why me, I can't believe I gotta go through it. Yo, you're human, you're gonna deal with some things. You're gonna get blessings and you're gonna get challenges. And navigating both of those is part of what makes us who we are, right? So don't look at it, fears and all that as being you're being punished and oh my God, woe is me. Look at it as, okay, another test, another challenge. How do I get this money to pay this rent? How do I get this money to pay my phone bill? How do I resolve the problem of not doing well in school? How do I resolve the problem of my breath or my walking isn't what it used to be? And you solved it, family, right? Number 6 is very important to me. Now we're moving a little bit more into the spiritual realm, and that is 2 things I greatly believe in so much I do it twice a day religiously, and that is visualization and affirmations. Visualization. What is visualizing? Visualizing is this. I say, I want to travel to Burkina Faso within 2 years, right? And I take time out during the day by myself, close my eyes, play some soothing music, and I close my eyes and I think about it. I use my imagination. I see myself actually purchasing my tickets for me and the Queen over the internet. I see myself being happy with the Queen. Oh, baby, I can't wait. We going. The date that I'm going to be there. I see myself traveling to the airport. I see myself in the airport. I see what I'm wearing. I see all the people in the airport and all the noise and clatter that you associate with the airport. The shops, the little walking escalator, that you stand on and it moves. The bags, my hands going through the metal detector, being seated on the plane, the movies that I'm seeing on the plane when I'm in my seat, getting up, going to the bathroom, the little snacks they give you, right? The little instructions are pull the air mask down if this happens, I see myself getting off that plane into the airports, looking at my beautiful continental African brothers and sisters and other people visiting Africa. I see the beautiful clothing. I get into the markets of Africa. The air is different. The sun is shining. I visualize that repeatedly. And what the neuroscientists say is that your mind can't tell the difference between something that's really happened and you imagining it happened. And that if you do that enough, particularly as you're getting ready to go to sleep, right? Your mind is in a different frequency. I think they call it theta mode. And when it's in this mode, you can actually hypnotize yourself. Interesting. That's why the hypnotists do the things to do what? Put you to what? To sleep. Because it's there where your mind is the most receptive to suggestion, right? So you visualize things, and then you also affirm. I affirm every day. You say positive statements, declarative statements, customized to the things you want to address in yourself, and you say this repeatedly. So you might have different ones you say. You might say things like, I am capable of solving my problems. I do not allow fear to paralyze me. I have the courage to face any challenge, right? I reject all fearful and limiting thoughts. I attract and manifest abundance daily, right? These are things you say with feeling. If you don't say it out loud, you think it with feeling. And I like to even do mirror work, which means that I do my affirmations in my office chair and I do my affirmations in the mirror. Because in the mirror is powerful because you're looking directly in your eyes. And you're actually saying this to yourself and you're seeing yourself. It's very powerful. You should try it. Oh, by the way, athletes use visualization, family. Championship athletes. Basketball, track, football, they see themselves hitting a home run, running a touchdown, making the tackle, swimming and winning the race. They see it. And they say that the star athletes that is one of the key ways, that and affirmations, not just the actual physical practice, but actually the mental exercise of seeing themselves cross the finish line, seeing themselves use this new running technique that their running coach taught them, right? Or this new swing technique, or with golf or whatever. So this is real stuff, real talk here that science supports, that we know championship musicians and athletes and actors and actresses use. This is a fact. These type of activities, positive affirmations and visualization, will actually help to rewire your brain and build your emotional muscles. And now when we get into neuroplasticity, we're going to talk about how your brain is very elastic, how you can rewire your brain. In fact, we have a video on this channel called Epigenetics, talking about how you can rewire how your brain functions. Very interesting. Number 7 technique, strategy for overcoming our fears, family, is to use meditation and breath control, right? So we kind of talked to this a little bit, but now we said be calm. But now we're talking very specifically. When fear hits, your breathing changes, you tense up. Slow, mindful breathing tells your brain, I'm safe, it's all right. And this can change your whole state of being. Let me make sure that, okay, I have a comment here. Let me just stop very quickly before we move. That's my lovely queen. She says WUCUSU. And speaking of my lovely queen, let me put something up regarding her new show. I'm going to put that on the bottom as a ticker. And I'm going to read it. Brenda Hilaire's new YouTube series, The Gray Area for Our Middle-Aged and Older Folks, is coming soon, family. Stay tuned. We'll have more announcements. I'll actually have her on a broadcast here and on our Harlem Liberation School channel to promote what she's doing. And I think it's a perfect segue because the queen, I'm not going to get all into her private personal business, but she's been through, like myself, some very serious health challenges that had us all very worried last year, 2 years ago. And she's come out of that. She's going strong. She still has challenges like me, and you get older, you have your little challenges. You got to work through it, right? But she's pivoting into a whole new area, as I am with this channel. She's pivoting to starting her YouTube series. She got a channel. She's doing a Facebook group. She's getting it popping, family. I'm not going to tell all her secrets because, you know, people be stealing people's ideas. So we're going to keep her, what she's doing secret, but I'm very proud of her. And I certainly going to do all I can to help her. And I really humbly ask you do that too. When we get out this information, go check it out. Maybe it will be a cup of tea, maybe it won't. It's all right. But we want you to check it out and support her as she embodies the very lessons we're talking about, overcoming fear. There was a time she didn't want to be in front of the camera. She was a little afraid about speaking publicly. But she said, you know what? I'm going to try it. It's something I feel I was called to do, to speak to a population of people who get older and think that nobody loves them, that they're useless, that their best days behind them. She says, no, I disagree. I want to give a different take. And that's what her show is about. So I just wanted to make sure I gave a plug to the queen to let her know that we got her back and we are rooting for her. All right? It's very important. I want to just put something on the bottom, remind you, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you have any questions, family, or comments. Put them up, particularly questions, because that allows it to open up and make this more interactive. I have one more piece, and that is confront your fears by breaking them down to smaller units. In other words, confront them gradually. You don't have to jump off of a cliff to face your fear of heights. You don't have to climb the highest mountain to face your fear of heights. You can start small, right? Safe environments help us to build our courage a little step at a time. So if speaking in public scares the mess out of you, you're not trying to speak in front of your whole church, you're not trying to speak in front of your whole classroom, start by going to the family cookout and make announcements. The announcements that had to be made, volunteer, I want to make the announcements. Start there. Start small. And before you know it, you'll be in your church or your organizational meetings, and you'll be doing this regularly, and you'll slowly overcome your fear of speaking, right? Each time you face a fear and you overcome it, your confidence grows until one day that same fear that you used to have becomes a thing of the past, right? And you laugh about the fear that you used to have and no longer have. I also want to say that the great and honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, one of the godfathers of Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism, Jamaican-born brother, once said and famously wrote in his book Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, "What man has done, man can do." So the other piece of this, when you're afraid to do something, I'm afraid to drive. Remember my daughter, the one I was telling you about, when she was first born, I was reading up on how to be a good father. One day she said, "Daddy, I'm going for my driver's license. I'm a little scared, and she's going through the whole thing. I let her talk. And I said, "Baby girl, let me tell you something. Next time you're in anyone's car, I want you to pay attention to other drivers on the road. And you're going to see some relatively old drivers. You're going to see some drivers that look pretty young. You're going to see all types of drivers. And I want you to ask yourself, are they any better than me? No. If they can do it, you can do it." That's also a very powerful way and a practical way of getting over fear. People, I believe this, family. All human beings that inhabit this earth are equals as it relates to it. They're intrinsically valuable because they're human beings on this earth. So no one is better than you. Now, there may be some people greater than you. That speaks to their capability. I mean, they're greater than you in math. They're greater than you as an athlete. They're greater than you, in terms of how fast they read. But no one's better than you in that respect. We're all equal. No one's better. So remember that. If other people can do it, you can do it. Now, we start talking about learning nuclear physics and some things that you know nothing about. That's a little more complex. But basic tasks like speaking from a group, writing a paper, right? Owning a home, you can do these things. Other people did it. So you can do it. And that means if someone before you has faced danger, disappointment, difficulty, and challenge, and they overcame them, you can overcome them. And this is, I want to be real clear, this is despite your race and your gender. We get real caught up on what other people are going, how they're going to hold us back, our race, hold us back, our gender, our age. Now, I want to say is, my father used to say, let them tell you no. That was his way of saying, don't you go canceling your future out before you even tried. Right? You're going for a job, don't talk yourself out the interview. Let them tell you yes or no. Not you. Same difference, right? We come from, the people that come to this channel generally are Black, African descended people. And I don't need to remind you, we come from a long line of survivors. A long line of inventors and builders and mathematicians and warriors, wordsmiths, all who faced some levels of fear, some level of societal subjugation and discrimination, and their strength lives in you, and you can draw on their strength. One thing I do to this day is I read biographies all the time. I want to know how people became great and how people developed faculty and capacity in their craft. And the best way to do that is read their story of their lives. And one thing I see is that all these people that I deem very great and that I respect all had challenges to overcome. All of them. Brother Malcolm X had to overcome some of his criminal actions. He had to overcome a slight addiction when he was locked up. He had to overcome that whole prison life, that whole institutionalized life, right? So many things, right? All of these people had to overcome that. Maya Angelou had to overcome being traumatized by sexual assault when she was a little bitty girl, and seeing the guy who did it when she told on him get beaten to death. She was so traumatized by that, she didn't talk for years. Hence, you might remember her famous book, which became a movie, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. She didn't start talking until she met a Black female teacher that was so beautiful and loving with her and empathetic and gentle that she created a space where young Maya Angelou felt safe to talk for the first time in years, right? All these people overcame fears. James Earl Jones, who was famously known as the voice behind Darth Vader in Star Wars, had a very, very deep, resonant voice. He stuttered. He had to work to overcome his stutter and his fear of being embarrassed when he stuttered. So all of these people that are famous that we love and like had to overcome something. And that's one of the reasons they are people we deeply respect. So family, the takeaway tonight, very simple. Most of our fears are part truth and part fiction and illusion, and a whole lot of exaggerated imagination. When we understand them, when we face them and confront them, and we create some of these strategies like the 8 I shared with you tonight, we can take back control of our lives and not have to be living in fear. We don't have to be the cowardly lion like in the Wizard of Oz, right? We can be courageous like our ancestors and like many of the living elders or relatives in our village and our friends. What I'm trying to say is that fear may visit you, but you don't have to let it move in with you, family. There's a difference, right? So I challenge you this week, identify one of your fears, something that's been holding you back from being your highest self. A skill you want to learn, but you think people are going to laugh at you. A class you want to take, but you're like, I don't know if I can afford it. Right? I want you to think about that. I want you to take a small step towards confronting that fear using one or more of the 8 strategies that we talked about here, because fear loses its power when you move toward it, not run away from it. You challenge, you confront your fears. And often you find the things you were so afraid of are really minuscule. They're not that serious as you thought it was in your mind. Family, I want to see any comments. I need to put up any questions. I see none. Therefore, with that said, I am going to thank you all for coming out. I'm going to say to you, peace and blessings, WUCUSU. Don't forget that on the channel Harlem Liberation School, our sister channel, our more overtly political channel, we are offering advertising and promotional opportunities. If you are an author, you want to let people know about your book, if you run a business or organization, if you're raising money on a GoFundMe and you need people to go to that and send some money, or you have some type of product or business or service you're promoting, please stop through Harlem Liberation School. Hit us up at harlemlschool@gmail.com. Let us know, tell us your business and your product or service, and we'll have a conversation about how we might be able to help you. We have very affordable prices, and I think you'll be very pleased. We have a very wide reach. That said, family, thank you. I hope that I've helped you get some information on how to overcome your fears, because scared money don't make money, and a scared life is a very restricted life. We don't need to live in fear. Peace and black power. WUCUSU, peace and blessings.